Back when I first started out, around 18 years ago, we didn't have the same resources as you have now. We had bodybuilding magazines such as Flex and Muscle and Fitness, and we also had forums. But in the magazines, we could see visually maybe a bodybuilder, a huge bodybuilder, and then sometimes their nutrition plan would be featured. And this would be known as clean eating. And basically what it would be is some grilled chicken, grilled or steamed, some rice and broccoli around 7 to 8 times a day. So they'd eat these meals every day, 7 to 8 times a day. And they'd have obviously the odd protein shake in there and the odd other supplement. But generally speaking, it would be broccoli, rice and chicken 7 to 8 times a day, literally. And that was known as clean eating. Clean eating has no objective definition. It was just given to a diet that basically didn't contain anything but whole foods. Just literally a diet full of whole foods, and that was known as clean eating. And now, and then even, what came off that was something called IIFYM, if it fits your macros, and basically that was literally the opposite. That was just everything or anything you want to eat, as long as it fits your calories, protein, carbs, and fat. And that was popularized by YouTubers.
See, that's 110 grams already, that's fuck all, mate. Looks like nothing.
But there were a few people in the community early on that were kind of pushing that, just saying, okay, look, if it fits your macros, it's completely fine. So that was the other end of the extreme. And that's obviously too far, and I'll get as to why later on in the video. But then along came something called flexible dieting. And in a nutshell, flexible dieting is some sort of, it really is not just some sort, it's basically taking the two and merging them. So you have a bit of the IIFYM, can't even say it, IIFYM, and also the clean eating. So it's basically, generally speaking, what people recommend is they recommend about 80 to 85% of the time you're eating clean foods. They don't have to be obviously chicken, rice and broccoli. It could be just whole foods, a diet based around whole foods. And then the other 15 to 20% of the time, you're including stuff like cakes where you've got extra macros, chocolate bars, not bars, you would have a certain amount, as long as it just fits in that small segment of your macros, or it could be a takeaway for dinner or something similar. It just making sure that most of your diet is whole foods that you've, generally speaking, prepared yourself. So the thing is, what is more effective? Clean eating or flexible dieting? So what does the science say? One recent paper I found actually by Colin et al. Looked at flexible dieting versus rigid dieting. And rigid dieting is basically just strict dieting. In this case, in this study, the rigid dieting was actually put together, a meal plan put together by a dietitian, obviously based around macros as well. And then the other group, the flexible dieting group, just ate whatever they want. So 23 men and 23 women took part in a study, and this study was over 20 weeks. So reasonably long, decent sample size. And what it found was, it actually found there was no difference in fat loss between the two groups. And that the flexible dieters actually put on more lean muscle mass over the period versus those who followed the rigid dieting. This could be for a variety of reasons, but when you take a look at the amount of protein both consumed, it was actually seen that the flexible dieters consumed a bit more protein, 2.1 grams versus 1.8 grams per pound of body weight. It might be down to this, or it might not be down to this. We don't actually fully know, because it's not fully outlined in the study, but it could be down to this. But the main point is both lost the same amount of body fat. So there was no difference between the two groups. And yeah, you could pick holes in the study. You could easily say, oh, wow, this is a one-off study. Like, what does this show? Also, I think it shows the most important thing, adherence. And adherence is the key determinant of whether you actually see results or not in terms of building muscle, in terms of losing fat. If you don't adhere to a plan, you're not going to get results. So with a more flexible approach, it looks like, and I'm going to just say this as well, it looks like it's easier, and it does make sense as well, to adhere to the plan, easier to stick to it, because you're allowed that small room for, I wouldn't say error, that small room to be flexible, to approach your nutrition plan with some flexibility, include some of the foods you like and enjoy. So that's obviously positive as well. But if you take it too far into the extreme, like I said earlier about the IIFYM, then what you're going to encounter is some problems, because generally speaking, when you buy like a ready meal or some things like a pre-packeted snack, pre-packeted food, generally speaking, the nutrition's usually, not usually, but can be out by as much as 25 to 30%. So that's going to significantly impact the macros you think you're getting. And I've got another kind of conclusion, my own conclusion, as to probably why the flexible dieters in that particular 2021 study found that, well, they put on more lean muscle mass. I feel that maybe the rigid dieters deviated from the nutrition plan more, obviously without reporting it. And what they would have done then is when they deviated, they probably went for foods that are less high in protein. That's just only my opinion. And maybe the flexible dieters had a bit more protein. It's just a possibility anyway. So that's just one study, like I said, but it's promising because it goes to show you don't have to, well, based on that research and based on my experience as well, I'm saying my, yes, and experience of a lot of people I've spoken to and a lot of people I've worked with as well, you do generally get better results from being a bit flexible. Think about it. You're not going to not have a cake for the rest of your life. You're not going to not have a burger or eat out for the rest of your life. And what happens is, usually when you're following a rigid diet, when you do one thing, it spirals and you continue to binge. And when you continue to binge, you go completely off track. And when you go completely off track, you don't hit any of your macros and you end up just completely off your plan, and you probably won't go back to it for a while. And then, yeah, you don't want that. You don't want to fall off completely. Anyway, that's it for this video, really. I just wanted to do a very quick one comparing the two. And like I said, I suggest following a more flexible plan. Just use the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time you're eating whole foods, and 20% of the time you could be eating out or just having a bit more processed foods or some cakes or whatever your vice is. If you enjoyed this video, give it a massive thumbs up. If you found it useful, share it with a friend. And if this is your first time here, click that subscribe button below for more videos on building muscle and losing fat. Until the next video, keep pushing those limits.